Hey, this is Louise Rellis, and you are listening to the Divorce Magazine Canada podcast.
Hey, are you or someone you care about considering, dealing with, or being through a divorce or separation? Well, you're in the right place. You don't have to do this alone. There are people who care and want to help. Hi, I'm Dina Court, an author, blogger, publisher, and empowerment coach. Thanks for joining me on the Divorce Magazine Canada podcast. You are going to hear from our team of experts and professionals how to navigate this difficult transition in your life easier, more efficiently, and with better outcomes. Did you know we host online divorce resource groups that are free to attend and everyone is welcome? Check out the links in our show notes and be sure and join us. We love bringing experts to you. Please refer to our terms of service available on our website, divorcemagazinecanada.com, and stay tuned at the end for the legal language. Ready? Here we go. Sadly, many of our youth are in crisis, and we're not sure how to help them, how to support them, and how to even get them to a professional who can help them out. And I am so pleased to know that some incredible people are out there, like my guest today, Louise Rellis. She is just amazing. I can't say enough about how comforting it is to know, how encouraging it is to know that someone like her is out in the world and supporting our youth. And her focus as a youth support worker, as a traumatologist, is focused one-on-one with these youth. And she works in rural central Alberta, and she is just there for the kids. She literally is there. She goes to them wherever they might be and supports them. So you're going to hear all about her work in our visit today. And I just really encourage you to find a way to support this type of work. And we really do need this in more areas in our communities. So buckle up. This is an incredible ride, and you are going to really see into the life of and the work of what Louise is doing for our youth. And yeah, you're going to love her. Here we go. Hi, Louise. I am really happy to have you here today. I'm so excited to introduce you to my audience because what you do is unique, and I think it's needed far more than we realize. And I'm looking forward to learning more about what you do, who you serve, and how you're helping families through some really difficult situations. And yeah, please tell us more about yourself. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dean, and thank you for having me here today. I really do appreciate it. Telling you about myself always sets me into fight flight where I want to run. I don't want to talk about myself, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this is very, very. So myself is Anam Rural Youth. I started Anam Rural Youth. We're going into our third year at the moment. Mobile mental health support for youth and young adults in rural central Alberta, in the rural communities of central Alberta. So youth age 13 up to young adults about approximately the age of 25. Um, Honour Youth was created through a increasing frustration I was having in my previous role where I worked at the time in the world of trauma. The amount of youth who were struggling with their mental health, who should be seeing a counselor or a therapist but wouldn't, sometimes because of generational trauma, sometimes they just wouldn't just because it was a counselor or a therapist, or they wouldn't because that traditional office setting was just not for them. In my role, I repeatedly had these kind of young adults come back to me. I respected my position and tried to guide them in direction where the support was for them. In seeing this need increase, with my background, I left Ireland with a diploma in child psychology. I have studied um, community and workplace traumatology. I have created another company, Mount Leinster Consulting, to consult more with families with kids experiencing trauma, which is just a new initiative now after being in on for 2 years, seeing what I thought was a big enough gap in services be absolutely astronomical, more than what I actually thought it could ever be. Um, so Onam's intention is, Onam is Irish, as I am Irish. I should have, in case nobody realized by my accent there, I'm definitely not from the East Coast. I'm further afield. I am Irish. And I have felt in my soul that I am here to help kids who feel there's nobody here for them. So Onam is actually the Irish word for soul, because I wanted that kind of incorporated in it. So I felt in my soul that I either need to do something about it or quit complaining. So I did something about it, formed this nonprofit organization with a board, we're a registered society, insured, all of that, helping kids struggling with their mental health, parent conflict, high conflict divorce, bullying, uttering threats, and the inappropriate use of social media, which encompasses a lot. But they were the general of what we were seeing. It is about self harm, suicidal ideation, and that as well. Um, Onam exploded into much more than I envisioned it would be in its first 2 years of operation. We are at the end of 2 years, I believe off the top of my head, we had 200, no, we were closer to 300 clients. Um, and we are in 29 communities in central Alberta. So our head office is based in Blackfalls, but we travel to Rocky Mountain House. I say we, what me, to Rocky Mountain House, Camross, Wetaskiwin, Stettler, Forestburg, Coronation, Drumheller. I was actually just in Drumheller this morning. Um, Airdrie, Sort Warburg, a large area of central Alberta. We focus on the high risk, at risk, vulnerable kids in rural communities. We don't say no to kids that we have referred to us from urban centres. We recognise a referring agency sees the need of matching that youth to our services. So we don't say no. We do try to get them connected to those services that are more local to them, but sometimes there's been whatever reason it doesn't work out. Um, so Onam is a mobile service. We travel to our clients. I meet them where they're at. I pick them up from home. I can pick them up from school. I can meet them in school. When I meet with my clients, it is formal, informal, I should say, and casual. I am not a counselor or therapist. I make it clear to my clients and to their families and referring agencies that I'm not a counselor or therapist. I studied child psychology. I worked in early years brain development. I worked in trauma. I have studied traumatology. I've upgraded in so many certificates. I very much believe in a work integrated approach to learning. Um, so I explain to my families that it's a safety net for kids who should be seeing a counselor or therapist for whatever reason aren't, can't, won't, that we are that safety net, that they have somebody. We provide a trauma informed crisis intervention, psychological first aid approach to support service. And what that kind of means is we look at supporting our clients through the development of the brain, impacts of trauma and lived experiences, helping them understand the why behind their behaviors, their struggles, their emotions, helping them understand if generational traumas, helping them understand that their parents' capacity is maybe not where they need it to be, but that does not mean their parents love them less. Kind of really kind of helping them work from the inside out and planting the seeds of character, strength, resilience, self regulation. Um, uh, Similar to kind of psychotherapy, is very conversational, but we do bring them for something to eat, or I bring food in if I'm meeting them in school, and I incorporate the food because with the chewing motion of the jaw helps you self-regulate, helps you decompress, help you sit calm, help you self-regulate, and have those conversations. Is that age-old breaking bread with neighbors. And when food is involved, we are a lot more relaxed and at ease and more comfortable, and it helps these youth with that informal casual. They don't feel like it's a service that's not for them. They feel like, oh, this informal casual. It's our high risk clients. I have to say it has been a huge benefit. We have clients who would not see anybody else and are now seeing us. And it's never our intention to be the single provider for any family, any youth or young adult, but at least if they have one, at least if they have one, we're their safety net. We can build up their ability to being comfortable to going to a psychologist or a therapist. should they need that. And for some, it's just going to them. They don't have the transportation to be able to go to services. So for us, we're very much telling them, hey, we're fitting into your box. We're not asking you to fit into our box. What do you need? What day do you need it? What time do you need it? We're very flexible in that too, in that we give them days and times it's available. They pick that what works for them. And literally all they have to do is make sure they're either at home or at school or wherever the pre-planned address that I'm picking them up from is where they are. Alleviates that stress for parents too, who are often coming home from work, just drain themselves from the day and do not want to even fathom having to go back out the door again, for any appointments. I know for me, I'm a mom with I have 4 kids, and sometimes when I get home and I when I open the door and I hear what I'm walking into, I do want to turn around and walk back out, myself. But I do know that I very much, when I get in my door, I do not want to go back out. And I try to, even my own personal appointments with the kids, I try to get that done during the day so we don't have that home and out and home and out, because the sports that my kids play does enough home and out in wrangling the 4 of them and that. So Anam was very much, took me a year before I opened it, before I got it feet going, because it was one of those, will it be needed? Just because I think it's needed, does it actually mean it's needed? And just because I'm seeing it in the community of Black Falls is where it started from. Is it like worse? Because I was thinking, if it's this bad in this community, it must be worse in more rural communities. So I did have that back and forth fear of, and at the end of the day, I just kind of went, Louise, this is not about you. This is the kids. And this is what I was here for to do, is to help these kids understand themselves, that psychological first aid lens approach, helping them realize where their struggles are coming from. Um, and that did grow into, just this past couple of months, I've formed Mount Leinster Consulting, which is a more trauma consulting and traumatology role, in the sense that I truly believe through collaborations with like minded organizations who are in the position, through their passion, and are passionate about building up these youth and young adults in rural communities to be successful, by working together, learning from each other, sharing our knowledge, sharing the struggles, sharing what we are seeing, and that we can really kind of set these kids up for success better and a stronger foundation. So the consulting firm I created because Onam's sole intention is one on one. Focus is youth one on one, I should say. Our core principle is trauma informed. Our core focus is our youth. We are one on one with youth. We don't do programming. We don't do group sessions. It is one on one with these kids. It is working, and it has been successful for them. And I do not want to jeopardize that foundation. I do not want to change the core of Onam, but I also see so much more is needed in these rural communities. So Mount Leinster Consulting was to try and pick up those things that I was putting on the side of Onam's desk, and ensuring that they gather legs and can really encourage and strengthen rural communities, and build that community awareness.
Louise, uh, first, and I've said to this to you before, and I liked your response. A, you're an angel, and B, we need more of you. And your response was, tell my husband that.
Oh yeah, actually, oh, you're recording this. I'm going to send it to him when we get done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We need more of you. This, I want to unpack this some more, because there's so much value in what you have already shared
Mhm.
about the need that you've seen, and how you're trying to address that need and fill that. And I think the first thing that came to mind is something you said near the end here, was about the one-on-one with the youth. That is missing
Yeah,
in their lives, everywhere in their lives. They go to the classroom, they're a part of a group, they're in their home, they're probably just one of how many
yeah,
members in that house. Their sports, they're on a team, everything they're involved in, their friend groups, they have, group chats, or
yeah.
their whole snap streams, and whatever. And so where are they an individual? Where are they seen
Yeah.
and very attentively seen and heard and feel safe one on one. I think it's
Mhm.
just it's such an incredible space that you're creating for them, and the fact that you will come to them, you're very accessible to the kids that need that. And like you said, even the ones that are in urban areas where they might have a little easier access, you aren't turning them away. You are also trying to facilitate them getting the care that they
Mhm.
need.
Mhm.
Absolutely love that. So it's mobile, rural, and that safety net. That's that space that is just lacking. And as much as the whole pandemic isolated people and they weren't maybe out of their homes, but that
Mhm.
isolation, it wasn't a safety net necessarily. For many kids, that escalated the
Yeah.
difficulties and
Yeah.
the trauma that they were experiencing, and now they also were losing contact socially with who maybe they'd felt comfortable with before, whether it was a
Mhm.
boyfriend or close friends. They were not allowed to see them. So, uh, I'm is that something that you experienced? Was that you noticed maybe things escalated during that whole pandemic and the isolation?
Um, I think, and even in some case, conferencing with some of the schools too, and having a similar kind of conversation, because I very much believe in learning from each other too, and trying to see what I don't see, like figure out what I don't know, and ask the questions too. But I think, and what I've seen and what I've heard with the school administrations is, COVID really just took the lid off the boiling pot,
Mhm.
and I have to agree in that too, because Anam, my what I was seeing the need for Anam with these kids in our communities, I was seeing that before COVID ever hit. I created Anam right before COVID did actually hit. Anam opened its doors in April of 2021, but I was registered in January 2021. But I didn't kind of open my doors and start facility because I gave notice to my previous role and that, and then I kind of wanted to um decompress from one position and kind of get myself set up before I went into Onum. So it was April 21 when we kind of opened the doors, but January 21 when it was incorporated. And that's kind of when COVID hit. Um, I believe, or maybe I'm a year behind myself. I don't know. There's a few years there to blend it together, but I do know the
We
whole
all lost time
intention,
in that
right?
space. Well,
It was
it's
like,
like
I know I'm not
somewhere
as
in
old
that
as what I
blur.
think I am either. Those two couple of years don't count. But the intention of Anna was there before COVID. There were issues that I was seeing well before COVID, and it was the high risk kids that really should be going to a counselor therapist but won't, and they were just being left behind. They don't see, for the majority of them too, they don't see that school counselor as well, because you're right, is in they're always in that group setting, and our body is kind of wired to protect ourselves from vulnerability. We don't like
Mhm.
opening ourselves up to being vulnerable, and we as adults don't like it, and as we're these kids definitely don't, as their brains are not fully developed. And that's conversations I have with the kids too, and helping them understand the brain is not fully developed between the ages of 25 to 32. So as much as they think they know it all as a teenager, they physically can't. They have a great grasp of things, because the largest most rapid growth of brain development is the first 5 years of life, and then the next rapid growth is during adolescence. So this is where we see a lot of the traumas, early childhood traumas and things, comes out in behaviors and emotions as an adolescent, because that's when the brain is sort of rapid growth again, and everything is sort of tornado inside. And if they haven't been shown the right coping mechanisms to deal with some of the traumas or grief and experiences they've had, it comes out in negative behaviors as a teenager, an outward action to an inward hurt and pain. It's really what these kids are, what they're showing the world. They're trying to protect from themselves from the hurt and pain they have inside. So COVID definitely increased the lack of opportunity for kids to release some of that vulnerability, because at home too, home wasn't always the safest place for all kids, but home, I think, is where a lot of us are at our grumpiest. We're at our worst when we're at home, because we all come up. It's like the kid tantrums, the toddler tantrums is what I'm looking for. Toddlers have their tantrums. Kids come home from school and have their tantrums because they've held it so well together outside. They've had it so well together in school that they come home and release the frustrations that they've been pent up all day. Us as adults want to do that too. There's so many times I'm like, I've said it to my own kids. I'm like, I want to have the toddler tantrum. I'm drained myself when I come in the door. And then the kids, and each one of them wants to tell you about their day, and each one of them is giving out about the other person. They're telling tales, and there's always something. So when you have that all day, every day, and you don't give yourself that ability to decompress, that ability to have conversations, because we all react, not we all, but a lot of us can relate to situations where we might get more frustrated or aggravated with our kids than we wish we would have had. But it's coming back and having the conversations. It's coming back and saying to them, we're all in this house every day, all day. We're all trying to find a space to do the schoolwork, to do the our my work, to do the housework, to do even our own space. So it definitely created issues for families who maybe did not have that communication ability, and very much kind of when they're home they shut down, and everybody sort of not everybody, but those who did kind of shut down internalize a lot of their stresses. That vulnerability, that ability to be vulnerable was not there, because kids were seeing their parents stress too, and they didn't want to add to that stress. They were keeping their own kind of struggles inside because they didn't want to make mom or dad more stressed than they already were, in some situations. And it's definitely not a hard and fast rule. It's not one size fits all. It's very unique. And our one-on-one core focus of that too is we have multiple kids with similar lived experiences, similar traumatic experience, such different coping mechanisms to deal with that, so many different emotional reactions, because they each have different intimate relationships and intimate experiences in how they things make them feel. So the one-on-one as well helps us. How can I help you? What do you want to share with me now, that there's no group setting, there's no five or six other people sitting around where you're afraid of saying the wrong thing, where you're afraid of you're the only one with this problem, so you can't say anything because you're going to be stupid if you say it out loud because nobody else in the world has this problem but you. So that one-on-one piece gives them that opportunity to voice. And for some, they didn't have that for the longest time. At home too, it's when kids are in school and they have their friends around, they vent, they can get things off their chest. But when they've been at home all of the time, they don't have that access, and then it becomes the social media, it becomes that keyboard online, and falling into maybe saying things online that you would not say to somebody in person because you don't have that empathy, compassion, you don't have that body language tone, you're not kind of having that emotional connection or intimate connection as you would face to face. So it definitely did aggravate quite a few areas, but the issues were definitely coming to boiling point before COVID, and I think COVID, in some senses, really kind of helped shine a light on the areas that were missing supports, because rural communities have been missed for years and years and years. It's the urban centres that have get the funding. It's the urban centres that get the resources, and the rural community members for years had been expected to travel to the urban centre. So a lot more with Zoom online, and where you can have resources in your home. But for a lot of these kids too with mental health, that sitting down on a screen was not for them either. Worked for some, did not work for it all. So it's like we say, we're there for the ones who feel there's nobody else has been there for them, or they haven't been able to find the right fit. And we try to be their safety net.
Yeah, and for some, I mean, this is all ages, that Zoom or the virtual meeting, for some people that feels less vulnerable. And for
Mhm,
others, they want that more intimate, more close personal connection.
mhm,
Louise,
yeah.
could you define high risk for us, please? You've mentioned it a couple times.
So high risk is, for my clients who are high risk, is who have had multiple suicidal ideation and attempts, homelessness, risk of homelessness, or couch surfing. It is really those who will not see another service either, and have been to the extreme of substance abuse and maybe self-harm. And I shouldn't say to the extreme, but definitely those who have tried to unalive themselves and feel that there is nobody for them. Those who were parentified at a young age and even emancipating themselves from their parents younger than 16. High risk too, I have where it's they've entered into the sex trade where they've been sexually exploited again at a very young age. And it is those high risk clients that we have that are, I think, we support all our clients that we get in here. We have great feedback from our clients. We recognize we're not for everybody, and I say that to my clients too. I know I'm not for everybody, and if I'm not for you, please like let me know. Give me the opportunity to find the right person for you. I use the analogy of a hairdresser. If you go to a hairdresser and you really do not like what they did to your hair, chances are you don't go back to that hairdresser, but you will find a different hairdresser. So I use that example to them too. But the high risk is we seem to be having, or I seem to be having great success with those. It's where they are coming back to me, where I'm having other psychologists and counselors connect with me to say that this person will not see anybody else but me. And I think that speaks volumes to where they're at in their life, that they've gotten to that point. And they're exactly who we're here for. It's those ones who got to the point of think there's nobody for them, and very much in some cases literally saving some of their lives, and literally have there is definitely one for sure that I know if I hadn't brought them to emerge, they probably would not be here today, and that same youth will not see anybody else. So it is hard. High risk is one of those ones where it's hard to define because um, what can be really high risk behavior for one person, somebody else could deem that, well, that's not too bad because I've done worse, in a sense. It's one of those ones where, yes, we can capture the high risk, but there are some people who don't see themselves in that high risk category because what they have done to survive has been so much worse than what is usually the narrative that's given for high risk. So for us, it's that um, unaliving risk of the suicidal ideation, the couch surfing, homelessness. We have youth who too actually have a roof over their head, being sex trafficked. So it's because for some people it's been, I suppose, it kind of gets a bit too technical in the sense of somebody trying to unalive themselves is definitely high risk, but where there is some struggles and some thinking, well, if they choose to go into this sex trade to end up having a bed, well, then they're not high risk because that's their choice, which is a whole other conversation, whole other, well, that's not trauma informed, whole other, sometimes it's shocking the conversation I do have with support servicing organizations. So it is a broad term, but definitely one of those ones that when we get these high risk kids, we they're our priority. I don't reschedule clients unless absolutely necessary. If I have a personal family appointment come up that's outside of my control, or if I have a crisis call out, if I have a client that's in crisis, or we have been asked to support in a high risk threat assessment in a school. So things like that that's outside of my control, I reschedule clients. But otherwise, I don't unless it's a high risk. If I have one of my high risk, flagged high risk that reach out and say, hey, do you have anything over the next couple of days? I make, if I can make that day work, I make that day work. If not, it might be the next day. But I have that conversation with them too. I let them know we're not an emergency service. If it's risk of life or harm of that, it's 911. I let them know that I can't guarantee if they text that I get back to them. I'm not on my phone, and with clients, try not to be on it then too when it's like certain things with my kids or whatever, which I know I do fail at. If you ask them, mommy's always on her phone. But sometimes too, I am on it to just scroll and decompress. Like I just kind of need to have that decompression myself and that mindless scrolling. But I make it clear to the clients that like we are here. It was flexible. informal casual. If you and because we are trauma informed is our core focus, core principle. We recognize these kids have been through a lot in their lives to get to the point of needing to see us. And you can schedule adverse behaviors, you can schedule triggers. So if something happens in between appointments when we're supposed to meet, I really encourage them, message me, shoot me a message. I might not be, and I tell them I might not be able to see you that day, but I will definitely see you as soon as I can, which I do. I make it clear to them too when we are scheduled, if we have appointments scheduled, because we do have an appointment confirmation policy. We ask for a minimum of 12 hours prior to the appointment of confirmation received. We send a text message the day before confirming. So I do have that confirmation policy that comes into place. But as I say to the kids and to their parents too, to make sure that the parents truly understand, if we are scheduled today, and this is where I am a hypocrite, if we are scheduled to meet today, we'll say at 3 o'clock, and I text you yesterday and say, hey, just confirming tomorrow 3 o'clock still works, and you say yes. If today happens, and I say to the kids, I said, if shit hits the fan and you are cannot, like the mere thoughts of hearing my voice is enough to push you over the edge, shoot me a text, let me know today is not happening. Like I will reschedule when I can. That is never a problem. We will give you the next days and times that we have available. There's no going to the bottom of the list. There's no three strikes and you're gone. There's no ramifications or consequences. We recognize that you cannot schedule your triggers, adverse reactions. We do let them know that's not a get out of jail free card. If you're lazy after school or whatever, from if you're going to work, that does not count. But I also say to them too, I'm trusting you to listen to your body. You know yourself best. You know whether you're escalated and the mere thoughts of meeting with me will make matters worse, or whether you could be escalated, but maybe I can help you process it. I can help you understand it in the moment. Because I let them know too, sometimes too, having me help them in the moment is kind of where we make a lot of groundwork as well. So that's been very successful for some clients, and the feedback, especially our high risk clients that have said to us that that's one of the things they love about other, and obviously meeting with me as well. I think which is more my accent they love when they meet with me. But one of the things they really do appreciate too is they know there's no judgment. They know if they need to cancel that it's totally okay, and we make that clear. I tell them to, I try and I'm not on my phone when I'm driving to my clients, but I keep an eye if a text comes in, and I even check my phone when I park outside their door to make sure that they haven't cancelled while I have been en route, because again, they've been through a lot in their lives. I am here to help them on their terms. I'm not here to make them fit into my box, because as I said, I explained to them how they're feeling in those moments. They'll inadvertently attach that feeling to me and partly blame me for how they're feeling, and which will jeopardize any conversation I tried to have with them or the support I tried to have with them that day, and could potentially jeopardize the relationship and connection that's been built. So I do strongly make sure that they understand it's okay. If you need to reschedule and you've told me we're going to meet, it's okay. We will reschedule. I'm trusting them that it is in those heightened states that they do need to reschedule. And I have to say, for the most part, it is the high risk clients do not abuse that system, I have to say. Sometimes it's the more vulnerable clients who I have to say reschedule more often than not, because they're saying, well, I don't need to see Louise now. Like things have been going good. I don't need to see Louise or whatever. But in that too, I recommend to my clients to keep notes. That obviously if there's a few weeks or a month in between when we see each other, a lot can happen. And if I see them this week, something happens to them bad next week and I don't see them for another 2 weeks, they can forget that negative. So I do recommend to them, because they all have phones for the most part, put a note in your phone, keep adding to those notes in your phone so that when we do meet, it's like, oh yeah, this happened, this happened, this happened. And when they text me, if they do text me, they can say to, hey, can you make sure that we talk about this? And I have had a few clients who have said that. I said, like, can I meet you sooner than I don't need to meet you straight away, but can I meet you sooner than say 2 weeks? And can you make sure we talk about this? And that's really helpful, because when the appointment time comes, they have forgotten. And when I bring it up, they're like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot, because when they've had that good week or whatever, they forget why they felt bad before. For some, not for all, but it's a general sort of term.
I'm just blown away by how beautifully you support these youth, and I mean, my heart has always been very um, soft, I guess, for that age. I feel like they're caught in a very difficult transition where they're not it's frowned on if they act like kids and they're expected to act like adults, but they aren't adults. They don't have the life experiences or the coping skills yet, or the autonomy to
Mhm.
necessarily. And then you throw in all kinds of crap that happens to them that is very often out of their control, and it's
Mhm.
traumatizing, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And I love the versatility that you offer, the mutual respect that you're building, the character uh, tools, and the whole this foundation that you're talking about that will serve them so well for the rest of their lives. It's just incredible. And I do want to ask about, there's a few things. I love how they can count on you, and that, builds that trust, which maybe they don't have with
Mhm.
many people in their lives or have ever experienced, that someone values them enough to show up, to create the space, to do what they say they're going to do, to make them a priority.
Mhm.
It's absolutely incredible what that's going to do for them. And I just
Mhm.
um I'm so grateful to know that there's somebody like yourself that's doing this for them. There was a word you've mentioned a few times, and maybe I just get kind of mesmerized too, just with your accent. But maybe it's an accent. But analyze, I believe you mentioned something like that, or there was something that you mentioned a few times that they do. If it comes up again, I'll stop you and ask.
Yeah, sorry, because I know there's times I talk too much. I need to listen to
No, no,
myself
no.
even at what I say.
Everything is just had so much value already, just to
Mhm.
understand um, that is there is a service, there is a way to help these kids, and how terrifying it must be for them, let alone the people around them that care about them
Mhm.
and feel helpless in how to help them and how to support them. Can you walk us through the process of how people get in touch with you? What's the process
Yeah.
involved for getting help?
We try to even make that process for referral agencies as seamless as possible too, because really, so they can phone me. We do have a referral form, but it's not necessary to use the referral form. They can phone me, they can email me with details. I do always ask for to give me the family's contact details, because especially families who are in high risk, they've been given numbers enough times to phone. They've been passed from agency and agency and agency. When they're at that stage, when you give them a number, they're not going to phone. And that's what I was finding in my previous role before I found it on them. I could tell on the phone, there was people who I was, because I respected that referral process that we had to do. And even when I was on the phone with people, I could tell when they were pretending to write down the number. And it really, it was just, it was just over the few years, you kind of develop that sort of, oh yeah, I can sense that you're not writing it down. You get that tone, different tone. You can even sense your body language on the phone, or maybe that's just me. But I just find they've had so many referrals. They've been given so many agencies. They've been given so many numbers. So for me, it is they can phone with the details. A referring agency. I've had clients connect themselves. I have had clients who have shared their experience with me with some of their family or peers, and they've actually recommended it to others. I have clients who have been sharing their experience with me with their counselors, because I have there are some of my clients do see counselors and therapists, but with that safety net approach is those therapists recognize that these kids need something in between, and that's they've referred some of these high risk clients to me also. Um, so it is, they can send the referral, they can even just send an email with the information, they can phone me with it. I contact the parent. So I capture one parent and the client. And I contact the parent, I explain the process to the parent and to see if they think the kid would pick up on this. So under the age of 16, I need parental consent. 16 and older, I don't need parental consent. I can meet directly with the client, they can sign. And then When I talk to the parent, I schedule an introductory meeting with the parent and the child, or if it's just the young adult, with the young adult. And that introductory meeting takes 15, 20 minutes. We just go through the summary of Onam, the intention, how I work, what I do, how I and my approach. And then they decide whether they want to meet with me or not. And I make it clear that the youth has to make the decision, not the parent thinks that they need to do this or telling them that they need to do this. And for the most part, the kids themselves do agree that yes, it is a support for them. And then from that point, it is one on one with the kids, and I schedule the next appointment with them. Then each time I meet with them, we schedule the next one. Sometimes they'll text then to make it sooner, or they might text to make it later, or spread it out a bit further. But yeah, it is, what do you need? Do you want to see me again in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month? What do you feel that I very much ask them to kind of judge themselves. I give them a few things to be aware of, to think of, and their characters, and the messaging that they tell themselves, and kind of that internal monologue that they've have going, and to pay attention to it. But we try to make it as easy as possible. Very little information too from the referring agency. Just kind of, why are you referring the kid? Because I don't want to have any preconceived judgment of what this kid's struggle is. I want to hear from them. So when I meet with my clients one on one, I tell them what I know. It's okay. This is what I was told. What's your opinion? What is your opinion of what your struggle is? What do you feel you want help with? What do you want to talk about? And I let them know too that I expect a preconceived judgment from them of me, based on who has supported them in the past, whether it was good or bad, what their previous experiences were, and how I understand their apprehension then potentially of meeting with me. And then it's intimidating. It's intimidating to meet with a stranger, to kind of like, why am I meeting with this person? What's going on? What's going to happen? What are we going to talk about when we meet? It can be very sort of nerve wracking, intimidating for that, especially the introductory meeting, and then for that first one afterwards. But then they fall into it quickly. It's sometimes it is humorous to see how apprehensive they are on day one, and then the next day they just like hop into the vehicle, and it's like, it's so it's really nice to see at times, because they're obviously comfortable with me, and it breaks down that barrier, which a lot of it is picking them up where they are, bringing them for the food, the informal, casual piece to it that works for them, because they're just the ones where that traditional office is not the right fit for them.
I love the transparency that is part of creating this space for them. You're addressing right up front, this is what I know, and that you give them an opportunity to, either confirm or
Hmm.
clear that up. And
Yeah.
you also know that coming into this, they've been probably given the runaround, or they've had bad experiences or no experience with, or heard rumors
Yeah.
of what this type of help can
Yeah.
be like. And so just to drop that right in right at the start, bust those myths, have that transparency, and give them an opportunity to just address that.
Yeah.
And what a great
I'm
foot to start on.
I am very honest with my clients. I am direct. I'm kind of mm, yeah, I'm age appropriate. I'm very age appropriate with the clients, and I keep the conversations to what their ability they have, and that's what works so great too with the one on one. But I'm honest with them when I meet with the parent and kid first. I kind of always say, they obviously have the emotional history. They have all the issues. They have everything that was said, done, promised, swore wouldn't happen again. All of the traumas and experiences they have together. I'm obviously not part of the family, so I'm not emotionally involved. They are. I have that outside perspective. Sometimes I can say, like, sometimes when seeing things with that different perspective can be frustrating for them. But I also let them know too that if you saw me with my kids, you would not want me helping your kid. We are so different when we're not emotionally
Yeah.
involved. Because I can promise you, if they came into my house and heard me at times with my four kids, it's like, oh my God, you're not going back to Louise again. Because I don't know, sometimes I blame the Irish in me because I'm loud, but then I think I'm loud anyway. I laugh every spring where you see these memes saying, okay, neighbors, the windows are open, to like ignore me hollering at my
Yeah.
kids are still alive. I'm kind of like, they can hear me all winter with the windows closed. I blame the timber frame houses too. It travels. The sound travels. But I am honest with them, and they get that. They really, but they like, it's not fake. I'm exactly who I am. I'm like professional. It is age appropriate. I'm not, I suppose, exactly who I am as my personal self, but I tell them, I said, I am direct. I said, I will not bullshit you. I am open. I am honest. If I receive a message from mom that something has happened, I will tell you. If I receive a message from your counselor or psychologist or school, whoever it is that has referred, I will tell you. And I do. And I think they very much respect that. And I let them know too, also the parents, and whether it's the school counselor or whatever, if something has went on in the background, just shoot me a text, keep me in the loop, because sometimes the kids don't want to talk about the things they know they did wrong. And if they don't bring it up and I don't know about it, then sometimes things are not worked on. But if mom can shoot me a message, or dad can shoot me a message, or whoever at the referring organization, and say, hey, this happened or this happened, and then when I bring it up, the kids kind of are a bit more comfortable talking about it, because they know, I only want that brief summary from the other person. It's their story. I want their story, because we internalize how we feel. We walk away from situations based on how it made us feel in the moment, whether it's right or wrong. To other people, it's right to us. So these kids are walking away from situations feeling how they feel, and sometimes the adult in the situation, or the parent, or the sibling, or the friend, does not totally understand how the kid has felt, because our emotions are unique to us. And the one thing, for the most part, that we can control is how we feel. We think other people treat us, make us feel a certain way, but sometimes it's us feeling that way. They can be aggravating us. They can be kind of gaslighting, and narcissist. It's kind of different situation, but it's really helping the kids understand, you control how you feel. You control the messaging that you tell yourself afterwards, and what you're walking away with. And sometimes it's where that conflict really comes in, because it's where that kind of age old saying, there's three sides to every story, yours, mine, the
Hmm.
truth.
Yep, I love that
And
one.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah, it is. And it's sometimes it is, you will have the people who knowingly do falsify what happened, but then you have others and they argue about, no, that wasn't said. No, no, I didn't do that. Yes, you did. No, where it's because in the moment, especially if you're in fight flight, the prefrontal cortex is offline. You can't reason, you can't totally understand the situation at hand. And sometimes we forget some of those things that we've said when our thinking cap has been offline. So it's, yeah, trying to even in those kind of general conversations too. I'm not a counselor therapist, so I don't dig into any particular thing. I don't dig into any particular trauma. I very much try to help them work from the inside out. Why did you feel like that? Do you know why you felt? Where did you feel? And yeah, so it's um I feel I feel with each kind of question that you give me, that I'm starting off answering it, and then I feel like I'm going into this other realm, and then I'm like, oh my God, what does she ask me again?
It doesn't matter. I don't care.
Okay,
I
good.
don't care, honestly, who cares? That's just what the question was, and then what you answer, and we learn even more. Just unbelievable, the fully comprehensive packaging, the holistic approach, and how you're really acknowledging who they are and helping them to acknowledge what's inside, what those reactions are, how they can deal with them, and look at them. They're scary. These are scary
Hmm.
things happening, and they don't know
Hmm.
why they're feeling this way. And and then they become terrified, and then it escalate. And I just love everything that you answer. Any question I've asked just builds on that, and I just feel like it's it's more than we initially, or that I initially
Hmm.
understood was involved, and it's so beautifully created and delivered. I just think that I wish there were more of you, and I asked you about that. So I do want to ask about
Hmm.
referring agencies that you mentioned. Who is able to
Yeah,
refer? This is schools, parents, family, who,
everybody.
everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
And that's
We
appropriate. Like that's
Yeah.
what.
We have so anybody can refer. Our most referrals come from school counselors. We've had referrals from AHS counselors, addictions counselors, school resource officers, step up, step down, PCHAD. We've had corrections. RCMP Corrections has referred. We have Family Resource Network, McMahon, FASD Network, anyone that organizations that predominantly do kind of have kids that come across their file that they come across their desk that they're dealing with their families. And when they realize that there's more going on here, or this the kids might need additional, they kind of do send it our way. Or if they see that just what they're doing is helpful, but feel that the kid does need something else as well, they kind of send it our way. But yeah, for the most part, um, it is those support servicing, social support servicing organizations that do refer. But as it's sometimes our clients have referred. I think I had a client, they were 14 and they had an uncle who was 19. And this uncle would not see anybody at all. But in apparently what this 14-year-old was saying to their uncle about me, the uncle went to the corrections officer and said, if I have to see somebody, I want to see Louise. And then they had to go get the contact details from the family to give to the corrections officer to
Mhm.
give to me. And I'd never met them before, and it was just from what that client was sharing with their uncle, where and he like he did um it was successful for him, and he very much appreciated the approach, because as he did say that, I explain things in a way that he can understand. He doesn't feel judged. He doesn't feel I can't even remember exactly how he put it anyway, but I do remember I was trying to kind of keep my head turned away because I was getting a bit teary eyed,
Mhm.
because it
Mhm.
meant a lot. Because that's exactly why I'm here. It's these who have been through so much, that unfortunately has had negative experience in the past themselves, or it's generational negative experiences, and do not feel that the support services are there to support them. And it is just having that opportunity there. So it's word of mouth pretty much as well. These referring agencies, I have not advertised on them services probably since the first 6 months of operation. If even I even if I did for 6 months, I'm getting a steady stream of repeat referrals from repeat organizations. Even the last couple of days, yesterday was Tuesday. Yesterday and Friday, I got calls from two other new organizations that had heard about Onum through the other referral organization. So like word of mouth is getting out there. So yeah, also it's trying to get the opportunity then to find more Louises to get
Yes.
out there.
That I was wondering about that. So I have some more questions related to the referral and that process. So you did a kind of address other family members because there could be siblings and you work with multiple members of a family if they do want that.
If they're comfortable, yeah. I do have a few families where there's two siblings that I see. And what I do for the siblings is I see them on completely different days.
Mhm.
And so that they kind of feel that level, because our services are confidential, which I don't actually think I said is a confidential service, unless our clients threaten to harm themselves or somebody else, we do have to report that. But otherwise, what we talk about stays with us. They need to give me permission if I feel, hey, can I talk to mom about this? Can I talk to school about that? They give me the permission. And then I let the same, if mom is connected with me or school is connected, I tell them, hey, this is what I received. Do you want to talk about it? So it's very much letting them know this confidential, and to help with that sibling, if it is a sibling, or in that other family's case, it was where it was a nephew and uncle, it is separate days. So there's
Mhm.
no fear of, oh my God, is she going to tell them what I just said, or any of that? But if they're comfortable with it, that's what we do. And for the most part, I have yet to have a family who is not comfortable with that. Once I say, like, we have others, and we do them on separate days, sometimes even a different week. Like, it's not to say that it's the same week, and they've been okay with that.
I think it's probably I mean, you could speak to this. When there's something that does need to be discussed, it's easier knowing that they've got Louise to help them facilitate that conversation and also to deal with their reactions or help their family
Mhm.
understand, help you help them communicate what it is that they're
Yes.
experiencing. So I think
Yeah,
that's
because
really great.
yeah, sometimes it was helping them understand their parents' capacity. And sometimes it's helping the parent understand that their kid's brain development is not where yours is at as an adult.
Mhm,
It's lower, and sometimes it's kind of helping them to realize their expectations are too high, or in that communication piece, what they're expecting behavioral too of the kids, and understanding too that as a teenager, and our younger clients, they're pretty much wired for self preservation, and friends are the most important thing. They come out of that pretty much, and it's not to say it's for everybody, that everybody is wired that way, but a lot of them is a self sabotage, or sorry, self preservation, and very much in the moments of when they do get into trouble with the parents, it's like, oh my god, I wasn't supposed to do this, so I need to lie, I need to save myself because I'm going to get in a ton of shit, and then that's how things escalate in the moment, because they're not thinking of the 6 months ago while the parents are. So sometimes it's helping the clients understand that their parents are not the worst as what they think they are, and helping them understand why in their mind the parent might have overreacted, but helping them understand why that reaction was there, why that kind of we have had a couple of clients, very few have asked us to have conversations with the parents, and have asked us to come together to have those conversations. We give them the option, if they want us to, but for the most part, it's helping them build their capacity to be able to have those conversations themselves. But and for the referring for the families to families is where I was going back to. It's I suppose it's a huge testament too that obviously they're feeling progress in our services, for them to the messaging that they're going back and comfortable obviously in talking about to their families, where it depends on the struggles too, and where some know they keep it very much as like they're not going to talk to their family about what we talk about, and then there's others who do, and they do ask for the help to, hey, I need to talk to mom about this, how can I, or like, I need to talk to dad about this, and it's helping them in those regards too. And yeah, the families, um, obviously it's up to them if they want to refer. It's, as I said, it's confidential, nobody knows that these are my clients either, unless they tell people that they're my clients. And I recognize maybe there are some families who might be too not confident enough to share with others that they are seeing, that their kid is seeing me or something, because there's a lot of sort of this generational trauma. It's in the parents too, in the struggle to get support as
mhm.
well. So sometimes it is breaking down the barrier of the kids, while also breaking down the barrier of the parents too. And I have to say, when I say to the parents, I can always kind of see the barrier, the wall go down. When I say to the parents, it's like, if you saw me with my kids, you would not want me helping your kids. It's they kind of they get it, because like, I'm not here to paint anybody in a bad picture. I'm not here to lay blame. I'm here to help you understand you and understand those around you from their perspective, and not from your opinion of what they should be. As to the best of my ability, I only hear the stories from my clients with me, and what they may know of their parents, or what they're willing to share. But at the same time, I'm not here for them. I'm here to get an idea so I can help the clients understand the capacity that their parents have, and help them understand then how sometimes the approach to communication, or the approach to conflict and things like that. But families, for the most part, they very much do understand that I am honest. It is confidential. There is nothing relayed unless you give me the permission to. I do have the consent form, where if I need to talk to a professional, like a colleague or somebody, to say, hey, I'm seeing this in the family. What do you think? Can you give me help or whatever? But I don't give identifying features or
Mhm.
factors. And I do have clients in 29 communities in Central Alberta. So nobody knows who I'm talking about.
Exactly. I love that not only are you giving them a foundation for, self-regulating, understanding their reactions, that type of thing, but the communication skills that they're building and the capacity for compassion towards how others are receiving what they're saying, or the way they communicate may be in a different way or from a
Hmm.
different place than they are. So it's just setting an incredible foundation for life. And
Hmm.
I think that's so beneficial. So I do have some more questions. I have so many questions. Okay, funding. That's going to be something that people are going to want to understand.
Oh, funding, yes. That is what I'm going to be tackling this summer. We are a nonprofit organization, so we are grant funded, donations, sponsorships, whatever we can take. It is hard. Um, with being a new, we're not new anymore. We have the statistics now. We were new, and when we were new, we didn't have that strength behind us in applying for funds.
Right.
We were seeing that because we didn't have the statistics to show the need, it was going against us in grant applications. Um, it was going against us too in some other organizations thinking we were a duplicate of services, especially as a new organization. There was some that was kind of territorial. And I think now that we've been here for 2 full years that we can show no, we're not here to repeat what you're doing. We're here to go to these kids who are not seeing anybody else. Like we're not taking kids from anybody. So funding has been hard because we are one on one. We do not do group programming. And a lot of the funding applications are looking for either our group programming or new initiatives. And ONUM's core is one on one with kids. I am coming to you. Where can I pick you up? Whether it's a home, whether it's a school, whether it's aunt's house in another town, whether it's a friend's house in another town, as long as it's pre-booked to where the address is when we book the meeting, because the day before when I confirm, I'm confirming for the address we had when we booked because, and I make that clear and I meet with my clients too, because we're a mobile service, I have to block off the travel time to get to them and the time with them. For the most part, we average about an hour because more than that is too much for kids. It's and of that, it's not an hour talking about all difficult things, but I have to block off the travel time as well as the meeting time, so there and back. So when I'm confirming, it is confirming with the address that was made at the time of the appointment. So depending if they change that's further away, well then I can't because I'm usually going from A to B to C in trying to schedule clients close to each other. So they could live in our head office, technically is Black Falls. They could live in Black Falls, but they might be with a friend in Sylvan Lake for and when they want to meet. So once it's pre-booked, I can pick them up there. We can grab a drive through and we can have our conversation in the vehicle as we're coming back, and I can drop them home. And sometimes too in the grant applications, it's hard to, or any funding application, it's hard to articulate that
Mhm.
in a grant for those not meaning to be rude or anything, but for those who are in an office at their desk with a checklist going through these grants, it is hard to articulate the humanistic approach of they shouldn't have to be at home for me to pick them up to meet. If they're at a friend's today and they're home the next 6 times I pick up, why should it be an issue of not picking them? Like it is, again, it's fitting into their box. It is meeting them where they are at physically and psychologically on the day. So it is hard at times, or maybe it's my ability is lacking, and that's what I need to find too, is funds, to find a fund developer or somebody who can do that aspect for me, because I realize too I'm in it. I've been in it for over 2 years now. My brain is working this way. My brain is seeing exactly what we do, but I'm trying to relay that. I'm maybe not doing the very best job that I possibly could for other people to pick it up when they're reading it off a piece of paper. If I could sit down and verbally apply for funding, that's me. I am more of a conversationist. I'm all about, like, yes, collaboration, sit down, talk to each other. This is where we can truly make the best steps forward for these kids. But just when you're trying to articulate it on paper for somebody to interpret it how you're hoping they interpret it as they're checking their checklist of that grant application priority areas, it is hard. We have been funded through smaller donations, Service Credit Union. We have a reimbursement grant through the Rural Development Network, and they reimburse us for our homeless, risk of homeless couch surfing kids. And we have been funded by the Community Initiatives Program through the Department of Culture and Women and Status of Women. And unfortunately, the other grants, that we have applied for. Even our last grant a couple of weeks ago, United Way, we got a no. Earlier ones this year, we're getting no's, and it is hard. It is super hard, because yeah, it's hard for the funders too because they're getting so many applications.
Mhm.
Like they are getting so many applications. I totally understand the checklist that they have to check, and the procedures to it. I really, really do. But it's just it is very hard when the grants are programs or new initiatives. I really feel that why are we why are we putting money into creating a new initiative when that new initiative is just being created to match the funds, finding ways, okay, we can get this money if we create this
Mhm.
new initiative. What new initiative should we create so that we can get this money? Why can't we build on the strengths we already have? The strengths that we have, what's been working, what we can prove is working, can we not build those up more? And that's, I suppose, my personal opinion because obviously I'm getting the nose, so I'm kind of frustrated with it. But it is, I think, and even actually, I asked, there was a trauma conference I was at lately too. And I asked, it was even Sheldon Kennedy, and his response was like, yes, this is what I've been saying too. It's the funding, how the funding is dispersed is not meeting the needs of what it should be dispersed, I suppose. So it's how do you change a structure, societal structure that has been there for whatever number of years and has created their procedures and has created their checklists and their areas. So it's hard. It is very hard because as a nonprofit organization, we're very limited to what we can apply for too, especially because we don't do grant programming or group programming, I should say. We are limited to what we can apply to. So yeah, this summer, especially July, I have actually booked myself for in office as much as possible. I am seeing my high risk kids and at risk, and some of the kind of newer ones I will see. But I am with a goal. I have a list of where I need to try and find the funding, where I need to try and advocate networking and things I've really dropped the ball on because I very much when on and took off and the referrals were coming in and these kids were and I knew I was like yes I wasn't imagining that this was going to work. This is actually working. The feedback I was getting, I really I am the kids are why I'm here. I want to meet with the kids. The paperwork is where I lack. I seriously lack, and my ADHD brain doesn't help either because I'm a master procrastinator, which probably doesn't help with the applications either. But I do put a lot of work into the grant applications. That last United Way one, I was like up to 1 o'clock in the morning, back up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like I really, really put so much into that. But I want to be able to hire somebody part time till we get bigger who can do the administrative end of things better than I ever could because my strengths are meeting with the kids. My strengths are not in paperwork. So um, I'm fully aware of it and I recognize I dropped the ball in where I didn't put the attention to that earlier on. I just wasn't expecting Onum to be as busy as it was. I was thinking, oh, you know, this would be a gradual process and I can work on these things on the side and get this built up and going too. But no, it was like, whoosh, these kids came hard and fast. And that's exactly what I was here for. And for the first year of Onum's operation, I didn't get paid. I was paying. Well, my husband was paying um, because I knew the need was there, but I also knew I needed to get the stats to prove it. So I knew I was going to have to put the work in without being reimbursed. We were lucky enough to get some funding, so I got my expenses reimbursed. Because it's free for kids. The families, it doesn't cost a thing for families for me to meet with them. Same for food. We purchase the food; it doesn't cost them anything. So for that first year, I was paying for it out of pocket. I was paying for the expenses. We were lucky enough to get funding and donations and sponsorship then that I did get reimbursed expenses, but I didn't charge for my time. So for the first, oh, a lot of the first year, not all of the first year, because then we did get funding. SIP funding has paid for my time since in meeting with the kids and for transportation and that. Um, and I think I foresee because we are coming up to with it being busier, because the SIP grant that we did get, it was a projection. It was a 3-year grant, and it was a 3-year projection that I had to give on our first year of operating. We were like 6 months in, if that. So I obviously didn't give an accurate projection because we're busier than I thought it would be. So like we are like the money is an issue now and how low it is getting because I've just been so busy. So the focus will be for January to try and find avenues of getting funding, preferably advocating even to the government to try and get consistent funding, to try and be
Mhm.
government funded. Because I do recognize too, I needed the statistics to prove it, and I couldn't expect funding from organizations for a new organization who had a wish and a dream, and I believed that I knew I was what I was talking about, but for fiscal responsibility for any organization, they need to know if where they're giving the money to is going to be spent in the manner that's needed. So respectfully understanding that, but now that I have strong statistics of 2 years of operation, I need to start banging on doors and trying to find the right people to um, connect with the right people then too of how can we sustain this because um, it's needed. It's needed more than I ever even imagined or dreamed it was needed.
Well, I'll do all I can to get the word out
Thank you.
that you exist and that your services are there and just how absolutely incredible they are. Something I'm gonna kinda go back into what you were talking about the kids because it's a question that came up when you were talking again about the referrals. It must be very difficult if you've come upon situations where the child needs the care, they also need a parental permission, and yet the parents involved might not see the value or support the
Hmm.
service that you provide, and,
Hmm.
how is there a way at all around that?
That is, it is, I've come across it. I have come across where parents won't take the call and won't phone back and won't. And I do believe they've been through a lifetime of trauma. They're in survival mode, and it is not any ill intention meant towards their kid. It's they have been um, received so many negative experiences in their life that to them I'm just another one of those services that's not going to help them in a sense. Um, I have um, I have some parents who have been apprehensive. I make it easy in a sense too because I always try to, I give a couple of opportunities of call and voicemail. I don't harass. I wait a couple of weeks then to try one more time. I will send a text message too to say, hey, that we can do it over text. And that works. That usually kind of helps break down that barrier too. And it really helps in a sense. We are informal, we are casual, we are not a therapy service, we're not a counseling service. We want to be able to help to get you there to that ability so that you will go. And if we have to bring you, then awesome. But we're not that formality. We don't have that formality piece, and that really helps break down their barriers. We still do, unfortunately, have where we've conferenced with some referring agencies where the referral agency, um, especially for a school counselor, they before they need a lot of agencies do need the parents' permission before they can give me their contact details.
Yeah.
So there is some where the parent won't give them the permission, and in that way, in working with the school counselor, where it's where the youth themselves want to meet with me and they have said they want to and they've expressed their disappointment, frustration, and anger with parent who is not allowing that. In We will keep trying. I'm here. And sometimes too, it's if the kid can give me the parent's number and not the referring age. So it's like we have other ways around it in that if
Mhm.
you can give the kid my contact number and they can text me mom's number or mom's email or whatever if they believe it's safe to do so. I also had that conversation too. If they're fear that they might get in trouble for doing that, then don't make sure that like with the school, which I think the school counselors have a pretty good handle on whether the kid could do that or whether there be issues at home or what that might look like. I have had In the past, I've had a youth who did not like, the parent wanted the youth to meet with me, and the youth was like, "A hell no, this ain't going to happen, and it is not going to happen at all." Which was okay, which was totally okay, and I said that's okay, and I actually respect your honesty. Like, thank you. Like, you're not, you do not intend to waste my time, knowing that you do not want this. So I appreciate your honesty. But they ended up spiraling more issues, and they were facing charges. So when they were facing charges and it was coming up that they would have to speak to somebody, they said, "Okay, can I now? I will speak to Louise. Can you contact her?" So it comes back around, and I think they appreciate that they're not forced.
Mhm.
They're not, that it is the youth has to decide whether the parent wants them to or not. It is just unfortunate for those where the parent won't, but the youth wants to, and then it's just once they're 16, I don't need the parental consent. The youth can give their own consent, but it's just when it's somebody under the age of 16, it's hard when you know they need the support, they know they need the support, and it's just that the parent is just in survival mode, and just unfortunately has that, not unfortunately, understandably has that preconceived judgment of me based on the services they've received in the past. And sometimes too, it's where they don't have, they think they have to regurgitate their story again, which they don't. I only, if all you need to do, or all you were able to do, is sign that consent form and say yes to me, that's perfect. I do not need to say any more, hear any more, or receive any more from you. I get it all from the kids anyway.
Mhm.
But just, yeah, sometimes it's hard. Some of the parents have just been through a lot themselves, that they're very much, yeah, in survival mode.
Thank you for addressing that. I mean, it's something I'm sure that our listeners will really wanna know more about too, because they might be a referring agency or a referring person, a family member that's concerned,
Hmm.
and they then can kind of understand whether that is, how that might be received. The last thing I'd like to touch on, because we're having you back. There's so much value in what you have to offer, and I really wanna
Mm,
niche down into some of the conversations, some tips and tools, and some of that, um, value that you bring to your clients that you would be able
mhm.
to share maybe to help others. Just maybe a little action item, some type of a supportive
Oh,
approach, or that type of thing.
yeah,
And we can
yeah.
bring you back in, because I want to do these little bite-sized pieces too, so that they can they
Yeah.
have a takeaway that they can then work towards, or just to understand if there's even just some type of a concept. So the last point I'd like to bring up is that you are looking to network and collaborate with others, and build out a network of other organizations who support and know you're there. You help, all
Mhm,
together, exactly how a collaborative network would be. And do
mhm,
you offer any type of training, or you could help facilitate or point people towards training so they would be able to, um, to maybe work with you at some
mhm.
point?
Yeah, I do. I have had like some conversations where people have actually come and asked me that, like, what do I recommend, and that. For me, I my hope is with Mount Leinster Consulting is to get to that point too. But I think where I'm at the moment, it is in the family unit. Not exactly the family unit as such, because there is an amazing organization, the Family Resource Network with McMahon Central, and they come into the homes, they help the family unit in itself. Um, I'm looking more at the more high risk traumas who won't go to the FRN. So family, again, families who need the support but are not going to support. And regards of the training, it is for me. I've definitely got wise in my ears. And there's a part of me was like, oh man, why didn't I listen to myself when I was younger? Um, I'm always like learning what is next, like what do I not know, what do I need to know. I'm learning from my clients too, in areas that I'm not as strong in, and I'm honest with them. I will tell them, like, if I don't know anything about that, or if I know little, or whatever that is. um but it is a work integrated approach. It is, if for those who have asked me what kind of training could they take, what would I recommend, it's like, what are you wanting to know more of, what are you feeling you're missing. And I really, for me, it is, I pay a lot of attention to the types of courses, because I've, like everybody, we've been to courses in the past, we've been to certifications where it's like, oh my god, is this going to end, where it's not the right fit for you. It's
Mhm.
perfect for a lot of other people in the room, but just not the right fit for you. And which happened for me actually in a couple of weeks ago. I was in a voluntary an organization I volunteer with, and it was mandatory training for 2 hours. It wasn't long, it wasn't the end of the world, but it was like, oh my god, this is painful, this is like base level for me. Like I did this years ago in the child psychology kind of sense. So but again, there was others in the room and they thought it was great because they didn't have that background. They didn't have similar training like that before. So it is very a personalized approach. What are you looking for? What area do you feel is going to resound with you more? Because even the last 2 days or a couple of weeks, I was taking not my wheel well at all or my area of comfortability, but it was Microsoft Azure fundamentals, right? I actually had to leave. I couldn't stay in the course. It was like, because I use Microsoft, I use software, I use programs for work. So I was trying like, okay, maybe if I know a bit more about it, this will be better for me. I lasted an hour and 45 minutes. So thank God it was Zoom, but I couldn't. My head was fried. It was not what I could take in. I recognized it was too much. I actually did kind of think it was more of a foundation for beginners, but no, this was ones who have a background with kind of computers and software and things like that and databases and SaaS and IAA. Oh, it was
Whoa.
not for me. But I recognize this is not for me. I have the foundation of what I need. I'm not doing that again because it's not what I need to know more of. It's like I have enough people in my life I can ask those questions for. When I need to, I will utilize them.
Yeah.
It was painful.
Oh dear. I think we've all experienced something like that. But I think that is such valuable advice is if people feel pulled
Yeah.
to serve in a certain area and there's something that they do find that they're very passionate about, that would be the type of training to start in and a field to look to work in.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds very cliche, but but listen to yourself. Like the example
Yeah.
you just shared, really listen. And maybe you think, well, this might be it, and you'll find you're either far more in love with it or it's just feeling
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And that's really good. And that's part of what you're training and teaching the
Mm-hmm.
youth that you work with is to listen to themselves and those reactions. I am just blown away, Louise, again, even more so after this conversation with what you have recognized and how what you've built to help. And now Mount Lancer as well with the consulting, you're, working to build more of a community of
Mm-hmm.
organizations who recognize and offer very comprehensive help. I love the structure that you have, the one-on-one, and it's just beautiful, and that it is free to these families.
Mm-hmm.
That it's very accessible. You come to them. There's no cost that will be a barrier to them
Yeah.
accessing this. It's just
Yeah.
incredible, and I am really excited to have you back again. Have you I want yeah, there's so much. There's just so much that we can share to not only make people more aware that you're out there, but to give people those tools that they can start
Yeah.
incorporating in their own family and just kind of try it out and help them when they're in a spot or even the parents if because I've talked to you about this. We're going to have at least a couple different ones where where you're speaking to the parents, where you're
Mm-hmm.
speaking to the youth, and maybe saying, "Look, are the kids driving you absolutely bonkers today? Here's one quick thing or a couple things you
Yeah.
could try that might help, so you don't destroy some type of really
Yeah.
burn the
Yeah.
house down around you because
Right.
of
Yeah.
the reaction." So,
Yeah.
uh, okay, all your contact information is going to be shared in the show notes
Perfect.
and people will be able to find you. Make sure that they can reach out to you and find you quite easily. And again, thank you for your time, Louise. It's been
Thank
fantastic.
you very, very much. Thank you.
Hopefully, you heard something today that helps you wherever you might be in life. Do you have questions or a suggestion for a topic you want to know more about? Let me know. Check the show notes for all the contact information. Follow this podcast and find us on social. Know anyone who might find this information helpful? Be a friend and share it. And hey, thank you for hanging out with me today. Keep smiling that beautiful smile. The world needs your sunshine. It means a lot that you spend this time with us and meet our experts and professionals who can help you through divorce or separation. Please refer to our terms of service available on our website, divorcemagazinecanada.com. The link is in the show notes. Our disclaimer: divorce resource groups, blog, and all content, including our podcast, is intended to educate and provide quality, credible resource information. The contents should not be used as factual until consultation with the appropriate professionals for any guidance. Divorce Magazine Canada does not constitute endorsements for nor liability for any claims made in the presenting of this information.